Is this thing on? Mic check? Anyway, so I've been getting some questions lately on what my settings are, so I figured I would go ahead and go over some of them with you guys. First things first, my wheel is a CSW, Fanatec CSW, Forza Edition, got the B3 pedals with the load cell. Um, so if you do end up taking my numbers and trying them or whatever, just keep in mind that if you don't have this exact bass, then uh, they might not feel exactly as they do for me. First things first, understanding that there are two separate settings when it comes to physical rotation versus the in-game sensitivities register. And I'll show you what I mean by that now. So if you go into the settings, you'll see your steering range. You come over to the controls page, you'll see the steering range. So on my wheel, I have my wheel set to 900 degrees of rotation. I can pull it up on the screen, but I don't think you guys can see. No, you definitely can't see that. Anyway, I run 900-degree rotation. So you have your physical rotation that you physically turn the wheel, and then you have the in-game range, which is what the game registers. So what happens is, as you bring this down, and I'll show you when we get out on track. I've got, as you can see, I'm in the car right there. Uh, as you bring this down, your sensitivity will be increased. What I mean is, so you see my hands here, and then you see the wheel here. So you see how little I'm turning and how much he's turning. See that there? How that red line on his wheel gets all the way over to about 900 or so, while mine's at like 10. Now watch. As you go up on this, it becomes more linear for your rotation. So you see how now I'm turning to 9 o'clock and he's only turning to about 10. So you want to find your happy middle in there somewhere. You want to, run a few laps, make a few adjustments to it, um, you know, and just kind of find your happy middle, like I said. And keep in mind, anything that you have a question about, just take it all the way down, run a couple laps, and then take it all the way up, run a couple laps. And that's for any setting in the game. If you're not sure what it does, just do that, whether it be settings, tune, doesn't really matter. Just if you're not sure what something does, just go from one extreme to the other, find your happy middle. I don't know what to do with my hands. And welcome to another video. So the last video I touched on physical rotation, degree of rotation on your wheel, and how that overlaps with uh, the in-game rotation. But just to recap on that, as you come down in rotation or down in steering range, you increase sensitivity, um, which could possibly cause you issues holding it straight on straightaways. You could be, jerking back and forth, wiggly, things of that nature. As well as you could be burning off your front tires if you're having, front tire wear issues, or if you're getting to the middle of the corner and you feel like your car is just plowing up towards the wall and just going away from you no matter how far you turn. That could be a sign of too much sensitivity. As you go up in rotation or up in steering range, you decrease sensitivity, which could have the opposing effects. Going down straightaways, you might feel kind of lazy, like the car is just unresponsive. As you go through corners, you might feel like you have to turn it farther than what you need to be to get the car to go through the corner and things of that nature. Typically, the more sensitive you are, the worse your tire wear is going to be, and the less sensitive you are, the better your tire wear is going to be. Okay, so hopefully now everyone has their degree of rotation and their in-game range working in harmony with each other. So I'm going to get more into the feedback and advanced controls and what really helps dial in that connection to the car. So for the feedback in game, I run that at 100 and the overdrive on 0. The overdrive just helps boost the overall feedback feeling and the intensity of it. But the reason I run them that way is because on my wheel, I run around 70. I let the wheel control it. So I run that around like 70, 60 to 70%. I don't necessarily like it to, jerk out of my hands or break my wrist or nothing like that. But I like to feel the detail in the car and have, some resistance to it. For the impact boost, that is what it says. If it's jerking you around when you get ran into, just take that down. The feedback leveling seems to be the ramp or the overall feel of the feedback. As far as like road noise and things of that nature, when you hit bumps, the intensity of the bumps and stuff like that. But I also run it in conjunction with the centering spring. So the centering spring will give you some centering resistance when you turn into the corner or some centering damping. um, and if you have it on, it gives you more resistance. If you have it off, you may need to adjust your leveling or your feedback to replicate how it feels with it on. But other than that, like I said, anytime you guys don't know what something does, just take it all the way down, try it, take it all the way up, try it, and find your happy medium there. It really comes down to just personal preference at the end of the day. Okay, so the advanced controls, before you can even see them, you gotta have the car handling config on custom. That will allow you to see this list right here. And this list will allow you to alter the rate of your in-game rotation. Um, so basically, when you think of your rotation, you need to think of the full lock as two separate things. You have your centering when your wheel is in the center of its rotation. That's your centering sensitivity. And then as you turn through your rotation or through your lock, as you get to full lock, it becomes your outer rotation. So for this instance, we'll just say, center is center at 12, and then our full lock will be over here at 9. So the nonlinear, what this does is as we turn through rotation, if we have it on 0, the turning forces get distributed more evenly. So the rate at which you turn through is the rate at which the game reacts to you turning through the corner. Um, so if you go up on this reduces that centering sensitivity. So if you're going into a corner and you feel like your centering is a little too responsive, maybe going into the corner and then it gets a little lazy as you turn through, that could be a result of your nonlinear being off. Or it could be vice versa. If you feel like you're going into the corner and it's lazy and then all of a sudden you're snapping down into the corner or something like that, um, that could mean that it's too high. For the dead zone and overshoot pretty much work hand in hand with one another. Again, this is that extra layer of degree of rotation. So your dead zone is typically the inside dead zone, and it is what it says it is. It creates a dead spot in the centering of your wheel. So if you're going down straightaways and you're going back and forth or going into a corner and it feels like nothing's happening at all, and if you have dead zone in it, then that's exactly what it is. Then 5, we'll just say 5 is 5 degrees. So for 5 degrees of steering, you won't have any response. And then all of a sudden, once you get past that 5 degrees, it'll come in, so on and so forth. Overshoot is the outer portion of your rotation. So the more overshoot you add, and the quicker it gets to full lock before you physically get to full lock. So for the speed sensitivity, this is where speed comes into play. So everything I explained before is more lower speed, um, resting uh, resting responses. So this game, as you increase speed, I believe default was 25. I have it on 95. As you increase speed, if you have this up, it reduces the sensitivity. We'll say anything over 100 mile an hour. You could be feeling lazy under 100, and then as you get up over 100, you could be feeling more responsive or something like that, and that could be an indicator of your speed sensitivity being off. Um, so as you go up on this and you increase speed, the less effect it has on your range of movement. Meaning, um, at 25, you increase speed, you're basically reducing your degree of rotation to, let's say, 540. Whereas at 95 or 100, as you increase speed, it virtually has little to no effect on your degree of rotation and doesn't increase or decrease your sensitivity. Speed sensitivity nonlinear is that outer portion of the rotation, seemingly. As you increase speed, um, your range and initial response might be okay, but as you get into the corner, maybe you're getting into the tires or something, and you feel like it's a little early for that through your turning radius. That could be a result of the nonlinear. But I believe it's at 100, and that's where I left it at because I like to have full range of movement in my wheel. Um, Damping is feedback related. So damping I've left default because, again, like I said, I do that in my wheel. I run about 50%. Um, so I hope that all kind of helps maybe understand some of what's going on within these wheels and maybe kind of helps lay out the different um, layers and different ways um, that you can adjust these wheels and how they work. They really are kind of complex and pretty confusing, but once you get an idea of what's going on, it gets a little easier with time for sure. So what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the third and final video in the little setting series, I guess you could call it. If you missed the other two videos, be sure and go back and take a look at those, and maybe some of what I talk about in this one will either help you understand what's going on or help you better understand what I said in previous videos. And remember, if you're ever not sure about anything that I'm talking about or what a change does, um, just remember I can't hammer it home enough just to take it from one extreme to another. Just that one specific setting, go all the way down, run it, go all the way up, run it, compare it, and then find your happy middle for everything. But anyway, hope everyone's doing well. Let's get into it. Okay, so for braking and throttling, you either need to be in the main menus or right before you go out on track, go into either the settings or the options. There's a couple settings in here that you can only get to before you go out into the quick race. One of them is brake smoothing. Um, what this does is if you have it all the way up versus all the way off, all the way up in a sense just adds ABS. It just keeps you from locking up the tires and uh, trail braking and things of that nature. Keeps you more stable when you brake. Having it off, uh, allows you to be more aggressive with the brakes and um, trail brake and different things of that nature. The next set of settings is going to be the driving assist. These come in play with both the throttle and the brake. Driving assist as a whole just helps control the car. It might apply a little brake for you, it might apply a little gas for you, it might steer for you, whatever it needs to do. The higher you take that, the more effect it has on your car. The lower you take it, the less effect you have. stability help is like on throttle, off throttle uh, stability. It kind of just reduces the power and kind of helps keeps the car under control. Maybe pulsates the brakes and in one side or the other, depending on if it's sensing slip or things of that nature. And then wall avoidance is self-explanatory. Um, However, expert lobbies online will not let you run any of these. So ideally, you want to run them on zero, but cases where you just can't hang on to the car, you can throw on stability or something like that, and maybe that'll get you through. Okay, so back out on track and over in the advanced controls page for the throttle and braking, you see some of the same stuff you've seen on the steering section. Let me get my pedals in view here. Let me make a little change. There we go. So again, with the dead zone, um, depending on how much you have in it, will relate to how much of the initial movement, so you see my feet there, of the initial movement is not registered. Affects the size of the area around your controls where input is not registered. So it would be nothing and then start to come on. So uh, going down to overshoot, the more you increase this, the less you need to physically press your pedal to become wide open in game. So at zero, you would have to be physically wide open to be wide open in game. At 100, you would barely need to hit your gas to be wide open in game. So that brings me to the rate, and that is the consistency. So if you press your gas just smooth through the lock, the rate at which it responds is this setting right here. So all the way through lock, if you are down on this setting, your throttle will be lazier, and if you are up on this setting, your throttle will be more responsive as you just apply consistently um, through your throttle range. Same with braking. Everything for throttle also applies to braking. Um, so on the nonlinear, these are for when you tap the brakes or the gas. Um, this is how much is registered in game just by simply tapping them. If you need more response when you tap them, go down on this setting. And if you need less response when you tap them, go up on this setting. So those are all the numbers and a little bit of an explanation behind them. Like I've said throughout this entire thing, I encourage you guys to mess around with settings and, always be sure to take a picture of what you have so that way you always have something to fall back on. But, just explore through some of these things. I really can't say it enough. If you don't know what something does, go from one extreme to another. So I hope all this stuff helps. Thanks.